Jay. Welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. Jay Stongo, Gary Fife, Jaho Jifkidos. Welcome to Mvskoke Radio. We are just getting ready to see the spring season on us, and we got a special segment here in getting you ready, and that's, of course, storm season. We're going to be speaking with a gentleman from the National Weather Service to kind of give us an idea of what to expect and maybe answer a few curious questions from yours truly. In our second segment, are you getting ready for college and thinking about the fall semesters and things like that? Well, finding money is always one of the hard things to do. So we have someone from the American Indian College Fund who will be speaking with us, giving us an idea of what it's like out there to be on the hunt for scholarship money, maybe an idea of how the best way to go about obtaining those bucks. And finally, there is a hair salon here in Mulgi owned by a Creek lady, Upscale Hair. We'll be speaking to her about her just grand opening business and get an idea of what it's like to be a cosmetologist and deal with customers in our part of the world. So before we get on to that, let's do our first segment here. Okay, here we go. Now, Mr. Cobb, Stephen Cobb, are you with us there, sir?
Yes, sir, I am, Gary. Thank you for having me.
Okay, great. Why don't you give us your title real quick and the kind of responsibilities that you have there?
Sure. I'm the Science and Operations Officer here, a meteorologist at the National Weather Service in Tulsa. My job primarily is training the staff and helping to integrate science and any new technology or research findings into the operational forecast and warning system.
Okay, you're the guy we blame for rotten weather.
I'm one of the many that the fingers get pointed at. Yes.
Yeah, I get a lot of that by any chance.
We do have our share, especially this year where the winter doesn't seem to want to let go.
Yeah, we'll get around to that. I'm curious about the changes I think we're experiencing in weather patterns. But first of all, we're into April here in Oklahoma, which is the beginning, let's say, of tornado season, going on through early summer, I'd say. Or that's the way it used to be. But I think things have shifted now. And not to get into any discussions of global warming or any of that. We just want to see what we got. But first of all, can you give us an idea of what's going on? Maybe first, why is winter just so reluctant to let go?
Well, there's a couple of factors, and it is actually global. It's not, on a regional scale. It's a global pattern that has just been pretty persistent, where we've had storm systems in the higher latitudes of Canada and even in northern Europe and Asia that have been persistently bringing shots of cold air into the lower latitudes, into the central and southern U.S. For much of this past winter. They've had snowfall as far south as Brownsville, Texas, and some of the deep south. So it has been an unusually cold year in that sense, where we've had some pretty strong cold fronts that have moved through.
And occasionally we get a surprise and a sunny day that turns out to be quite pleasant. Now, what's going on there? What's happening?
Right. With this kind of pattern that we have been experiencing, it's not unusual to see it flip quickly from a very cold, bitter cold outbreak to a warm spell, and then right back into the cold system again. That's really nothing unusual, nothing we haven't seen in the past. Sometimes snowpack and other things will help make those a little bit more extreme, and when we have a larger snowpack across the continent, the northern part of Canada and northern U.S., that can sometimes make that extreme a little bit more noticeable.
Now, a lot of our listeners here and Muskogee Creek citizens depend quite heavily on agriculture for their livelihoods. Are these weather patterns showing any problems that they're going to be experiencing with their crops and their stock?
Well, we are certainly seeing that out west in the western third of the state, where we've had extreme to exceptional drought in place for quite some time. They're going on up to 100 days or more in the Panhandle and other places out west of seeing any meaningful rainfall. Here closer to Green Country, it hasn't been as severe. We did have a dry spell that put us in drought for a period of time, but that has now turned back to normal, and our rainfall is starting to occur more frequently, which we really appreciate this time of year. So that's certainly going to help agriculture and that sort of thing. Overnight temperatures are gradually historically or over time have gradually warmed by a few tenths of a degree or so. That's also going to help promote, the growth of grasses and maybe some of the agricultural planning as well. So overall, it's looking like we're going into the spring agriculturally in a pretty positive note.
Okay, we've had a lot of rain here in the last couple of weeks. Couple of days there were real frog stranglers. Any problems coming up from that sudden outburst, those cloud bursts hitting us?
That certainly is an issue when we get extreme rainfall rates or heavy rates over a period of time. And what we've had with this period that you're talking about is we've had storms that are tracking continuously over the same area, and that's due to the slow movement of these storm systems that we're talking about. The jet stream gets into a very wavy pattern, and it can get kind of locked into that for a little while, and the storm systems or cold fronts that move through that can be very slow moving, and then that promotes or encourages repeated rainfall over an area for maybe many days in a row, and that's really where it starts to stack up and pile up and cause the flooding issues like we've seen.
Right, I've seen a lot of that in my yard. It turns into a swamp every time there's a good rainfall, and I'm still looking to see it drain off. Okay, now this seems like a kind of a precursor to our annual spring tornado season. Gosh, I hate even saying that word sometimes. But we are into April now, which is usually part of the period that we see the most tornadoes and thunderstorms and nasty things like that, with May being the one that has the peak, I believe. First of all, am I correct in assessing that season?
No, that's certainly true. April begins to ramp up. The number of severe weather episodes starts to increase. It peaks in May and even continues a little bit into early June, and then significantly drops off after that.
Okay, so the storm season leaves, and then that heat hits us, right?
Right.
Do you have any idea of what we might be in for? Does the Weather Service have some sort of prediction scale or something like that? In other words, people are going to want to know, how close to stick to that storm shelter, I suppose. But, what do we got coming? Do you have an idea there?
Right, yeah, I sure wish we had that crystal ball, that magic 8-ball that would tell us the number of tornadoes and where they would be located, but we just don't have, that ability. Science just doesn't offer that at this point and may never. So what it is that over the past decade, we've seen an average to above average tornado count here in eastern Oklahoma. So we're certainly in, you might even call it a hyperactive period of time when we are seeing more than normal number of tornadoes. So here in eastern Oklahoma, so it's always good to stay alert and have as many ways as possible to receive the warnings. And like you said, have the plan in place to know where to go in case you see something that could be threatening, or you receive an alert of a tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning for your area. On the flip side, that same decade has also seen some pretty low years of tornado counts. But it only takes one storm to really make it significant for your area or for your community or your home. A good example of that is in 2014 in Arkansas. They only had 2 tornadoes in that part of Arkansas the whole year, but one of those was a very violent EF4 tornado in Mayflower, Valonia area. So it only takes one storm to make it a bad year.
Right. I guess Moore, Oklahoma can testify to that, right?
Yes, they have many of those years, it seems, back to back sometimes, right?
Let me ask you kind of a strange question here. The movie Twister focused on Oklahoma and the tornadoes that hit our areas, a lot of activity out west, I guess. Is that movie, in any sense of the word, accurate? Did it give us a pretty good portrayal? Could it be a scare alarm for some people? What do you think?
Well, one thing it certainly did is that it generated a lot of interest in storm chasing and tornado chasing, and that movie could be argued that movie brought a lot of people out into that as a hobby, into that area as a hobby, and that actually could have helped. In some way, helped increase the number of tornadoes that we're seeing, since then, because we just have a more active spotter or chaser community, and that movie actually may have contributed some to that. As far as the truthfulness of it, there were many parts of it that were pretty accurate, and it was based on history. It was based on a lot of the work that was done at the University of Oklahoma. Actually, at the time, I was still a student there when we started deploying instrumentation in the middle or in front of a tornado to measure pressure and wind and that sort of thing. Of course, technology continues to advance as well. So we have radars and mobile radars now that are fixed to large trucks that can move around and get in place to view the tornado at much closer range, and many other instrumentations that we have. So there's a lot of accuracy, to that.
One thing that kind of raises the question in my mind is whether or not that storm chasing is a good idea. I mean, obviously it would put more eyes on the prize out there for you, but at the same time, it could kind of get in the way of the pros who are out there trying to do their job to get somebody in the wrong place at the wrong time when that tornado comes through. So there's a good and a bad there.
It certainly is. One of the most recent unfortunate events was out actually in West Texas, east of Lubbock, and that occurred just last year, where some tornado chasers some storm chasers had a collision out on a road. They weren't really in the vicinity of the storm. They were just out driving, looking at the weather. Maybe for whatever reason they collided at an intersection that would otherwise just be very few cars passing through that on a daily basis. So you're right, it does increase traffic, and it can be very dangerous for that sense alone. One thing that we at the Weather Service do not do is promote people to get close to the tornado and to take pictures and that sort of thing. We encourage reports from a very safe distance. We have training classes that teach people how to view storms safely and what to look for and that sort of thing. And we really encourage them to be educated, people to be educated before they even attempt to drive into or out into the harm's way, because there's more than just tornadoes and violent winds and a thunderstorm. There's lightning, which kills many people each year. There's large hail and things like that that can certainly damage property and hurt people.
So getting up close to it to put it on YouTube is really not worth it.
No, there are unfortunately some people out there that are kind of adrenaline junkies that do that, and they are not always the smartest people either. Right.
So the Darwin Awards comes to mind.
It certainly does.
Now, the pattern over the past few years I've noticed has seen a lot of tornado activity shifting up north. Now, that's just me, just kind of watching the weather reports and getting an idea of what the national coverage is saying. Is that true? Are we really looking at some shifting weather patterns? Because you hear these things. popping up in places where we hadn't really heard of too much activity, like as far north as Minnesota or the northeastern states, and I know the southeastern states have been getting hammered for the past couple of years. Has the Weather Service talked about shifting weather patterns?
Well, there is a natural climatological shift anyway. Actually, it's a seasonal shift that begins in the southeastern U.S. Here in the late winter, early spring. It shifts into the southern plains in kind of the early to mid-spring, and then into the northern plains, and like you're saying, in Minnesota, in Canada, in the summertime. And what that is just the jet stream pattern that shifts and adjusts northward as the summer becomes more persistent and longer days and that sort of thing. So really it's just a shift or a change in the typical jet stream pattern, which is where the storm systems track along. It's kind of the highway which the storm systems ride along. That jet stream shifts northward with time, and then that draws or brings the sufficient or the necessary conditions northward with it with the wind shear or change in wind direction with height, the heating, of course, from the summer, and then the moisture is able to work that far northward with time because they haven't had those cold outbreaks and stuff for a while. So everything is kind of just gradually normally shifting that way anyway in the summertime. What may make it seem or appear to be more abnormal is when maybe one of those areas, such as maybe southern Oklahoma or central Oklahoma, has a low tornado year like we had in 2002, and you hear many more tornadoes, in the northern U.S., from Minnesota to Chicago to Michigan or into the Northeast. And that's just, again, that's part of climatology, part of the normal thing, normal pattern shift, change, and that's some of the unusual variation we have in tornado occurrences.
So that's a cycle we can expect to experience again in the future, then?
Certainly, yeah.
Well, in the last few minutes here, let's get your assessment of the coming spring. We've got half a month of April left, and then May, of course, and then into June. Have you got some feel, something that you might want to share on how that storm season is going to be developing?
Again, looking at what's happening right now, and one of the main drivers, I think, in this early part of the spring here in April will be the significant difference in the rainfall that we've seen here in eastern Oklahoma and the lack of rainfall in the western third of Oklahoma and into the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles. What that's probably going to do is probably going to encourage or help the dry line to set up further east, closer to us. So storms may be developing more in the I-35 corridor a little further east early on versus further to the west out in western Oklahoma. So what that's going to do is probably going to maybe make for an earlier start to the day of some of the severe weather. And it could also mean that we could have some of the more significant hail and maybe even the tornado potential early on in April before things begin to naturally shift back to the west, where we get these late evening, nighttime thunderstorm routine.
All right, those are the ones that kind of give me the shivers.
Yeah, they wake you up out of bed. Mm-hmm. The wind becomes extreme. The hail hits without much notice. And then we also can have some tornadoes embedded in those line of storms, and those are very, very difficult to give much lead time ahead because they're very short-lived events.
Mr. Cobden, if you were to leave a word of advice to our listeners as we start into the storm season, what kind of things should people have on their minds?
Well, I think, again, it's just reiterating that it only takes one storm, one tornado to upset the whole year for you. So you want to prepare as if every day there may be that potential, just meaning that you have a plan in place, you have as many ways as possible to receive a warning, whether it be a cell phone, NOAA weather radio, certainly a battery-powered radio or some way, if the power is knocked out, to be able to keep up to date and know what's happening. And then, of course, know what to do. In a home where you don't have a storm shelter or basement or cellar, go to the lowest floor, interior room, put as many walls between you and the outside. And the vast number of these tornadoes are very survivable in that environment.
Well, that's one experience that I can pass on. I'll do without it. Thank you, sir. All right. Mr. Stephen Cobb with the National Weather Service, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time to chat with us. Hopefully we will not be hearing from you in relation to any tornado alerts or things like that. So thank you, sir. We appreciate the information you've shared.
It's my pleasure.
Okay. Well, you have a good one.
Thank you.
All right, that was Mr. Stephen Cobb with the National Weather Service, kind of giving us an idea of what to expect and what we might have been experiencing. But let's take a short break here. We'll take a couple of messages here, and we'll try and get our next interview on the line. So please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out NCAI.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Hear that? That's the sound of Hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
We have on the line here Ms. Leah Fish with the American Indian College Fund. Good morning, Ms. Fish. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Okay, a little nervous here as I'm trying to drive this show. Still a beginner with all the machinery, but hopefully I haven't fumbled anything yet. Now, I know that a lot of folks, either watching TV or even the radio, have become aware of the American Indian College Fund and the work that you're doing in trying to provide educational opportunities for Native American students and support the institutions. So for those folks who really aren't familiar with you, let's give me an idea, a short capsule of what the College Fund is.
So, College Fund, it was founded in 1989 to primarily support tribal colleges and providing funding opportunities for their students in the form of scholarships, because there was really nothing like that out there, and so that's why it was founded. But we're working to increase the number of educated American Indians with college degrees, and we have a few programs that provide services to our students. We have the two types of scholarships, a TCU scholarship and a full circle, and the difference between those two is the TCU is money that is given to the tribal college, and then they decide who to award the scholarship to, and also they determine like the deadlines and all that good stuff. But the Full Circle is one of the bigger scholarship programs for the American Indian College Fund, and that deadline is coming up on May 31st. It opens annually every year on January 1st. And let's see, so with the Full Circle, we send out the applications to judge reviewers throughout the United States. They score them, they send them back to us, and then we award them. So that's the difference between those two. But we also have other programs in the form of, like student success. And so I work for a program called Native Pathways to College, and I'm a transfer program coordinator. And so basically what I do is I coach and mentor tribal college students through their 2-year education at their TCU, and then I help them transition into 4-year institutions to get their bachelor's degree. And so we have a number of programs that help students, but I think we're more known for the full circle.
If I'm sure that there are folks out there who are curious about what kind of financial support those scholarships represent. In other words, how much money, I guess, is what we're talking about. Can you give us an idea of the size of those scholarships and what those funds can be used for?
Yes, so last year we provided about 6,500 scholarships to more than 32 institutions nationwide. And that the 32 institutions are the tribal colleges, but we also awarded to other students at mainstream institutions. And so the total students that were awarded were 6,500, and the amount of money that we awarded was about $7.6 million. And so the Full Circle and the TCU are like a big pot of scholarships. And so there may be a Target scholarship in there. There may be a Coca-Cola scholarship, and those awards vary. They can go from $10,000 all the way down to $500. And so it really depends on the donor, I guess.
I would imagine the effectiveness would depend on the schools that they are applying to, right?
Yes, definitely. And, we try to encourage our students to go to four-year tribal colleges. And so, that's what we're working towards. We're striving to increase those numbers for educated American Indian students nationwide.
Now, you mentioned tribal colleges there. What about something like let's say the University of Oklahoma or Oklahoma State University or a private school like Tulsa University? Would those funds also be available for students wanting to go to those schools?
Yes, they would be. And so with the two scholarship programs at TCU, the difference between the two is that the TCU, so say we were to award a scholarship, give money to Sitting Bull College, while only students at Sitting Bull College could apply for the TCU scholarship, but the Full Circle includes high school students who are seniors entering their freshman year of college. We work with tribal college students, and mainstream students can apply, such as, you mentioned University of Oklahoma, those type of students, and then grad students. So we serve about 4 different, populations for the Full Circle, but the TCU, only the student that is enrolled at that particular tribal college can apply for that scholarship.
Can you give me an idea of how we're doing? Education has always been one of the challenges that Native American people and families have always had to deal with. And I was in college end of the 60s and the early 70s. And a friend of mine once mentioned to me that kind of stuck with me is that we were pretty much the first generation of Native people to attend college and graduate. And I know there are those folks who went on before us, but we were like a whole generation of us were all of a sudden going into higher ed. First of all, is that true, and how does it compare to today?
Yeah, so I do believe it's true. Right now, I guess it's steadily rising, the amount of American Indians that have college degrees. But right now, stats say that only 14% of American Indians have a college degree. And so that's what we're working towards, is to increase those numbers and make sure that, our Native people are educated so they can go home and, be directors for these tribal programs and tribal lawyers and all that good stuff.
Right. That was one thing that I think a lot of us shared, is that we wanted to take that education back home and serve our own communities and people and see what we could do to change things for us. And I think we've succeeded to a pretty decent degree there. My generation, so to speak, is now running the tribes, in many cases tribal leaders, and occupying positions of significant responsibility. Now, are there fields or disciplines that you are aware of that Native people are looking to? Like, do I want to be a nurse, a doctor, a teacher, or a business person? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of different areas of students, what they're deciding to major in college. We have people who, a lot of them are going into their language. I have a lot of students that I work with that are becoming Dakota language instructors. And so, they don't have those type of degrees at the mainstream institutions. And so what they're doing is they're transferring into linguistics degrees. And so we have those type of people. We have a lot of students that are in a health profession field because they want to go back, and we need more Native nurses and Native doctors, and to provide the care that our people need. And so we have students like that. And then we also have with the No Tapple movement, a lot of students. I've seen a lot of students enroll in sustainability type programs, like windmill, generating electricity with windmills, or like environmentalism. So those are the type of degrees that they're going into, very to serve the people or to protect or preserve the land type degrees. So yeah, it seems then
our environment will benefit, our culture will benefit, and just the well-being of our people will change, and for the positive, I'd say. Now, hopefully, we're going to raise the idea of attending a institute of higher learning with many of our Native young people now who may or may not have considered it. First of all, they say, you can't get anywhere in this world without a college degree. Is that still pretty much hold up?
Yes, it does. And so, I don't like to talk about myself, but I did drop out of school, and, I'm a perfect example of how education can turn your life around. And, I went through the system. I got my job. I got a job now that I love. And so, education does pay off. And I'm a big advocate for tribal colleges. I do believe that, if there's a tribal college near you, go to it, because these tribal colleges were founded to, reintroduce history and language. And so, I encourage our students to start there, and it's a good starting point, and it pays off. It really does.
Right. Our own Mvskoke, College of the Mvskoke Nation is doing well, has drawn a lot of interest from our local Mvskoke students, and I think we're well on our way to a wonderful future there. Now, Ms. Fish, if someone was interested in more information about your programs, the kinds of opportunities that might be available to them, how do they get in touch with you?
So we are on the web. You can search us at www.collegefund.org, and you should find a bunch of different information about our programs, contact information. And then you can also call. We have an 800 number. We have social media sites. So there's a number of ways to locate us and find out more information about us.
Okay. Let's move along here. Ms. Leah Fish with the American Indian College Fund. We want to thank you so much for taking some time from your schedule to chat with us this morning. So, Mado.
Yeah, no problem. And then I also wanted to plug one other thing.
Please, go right ahead.
Yes. So we're currently having a gala. We call it the 2018 Flame of Hope Gala, which is being hosted in New York City right now, and it's a big fundraising event for the American Indian College Fund. A lot of those funds will go back in the form of scholarships to students and support for the tribal colleges, and so they're going to live stream it tonight on Facebook, and it'll start at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And so if you're online around that time, well then definitely go check it out, because there will be student speakers and also entertainment. So check it out.
I understand that entertainment is in the form of Rita Coolidge.
Yes, Rita Coolidge.
Okay, wonderful performer there. Well, Leah Fish, thank you so much. We're going to wish you well and success with that fundraiser, and we'll be talking to you again in probably the future, and keep our eyes on things.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Okay, have a good one. That's Leah Fish with the American Indian College Fund. We're going to take another short pause and come back with Julie Wynn, who is the owner and main operator of Upscale Hairstyles here in Mvskoke. We're going to find about her business and what happens when clients come in. Is it just getting a haircut? So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Who am I? Am I native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at NCAI.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Okay, we're back here on Mvskoke Radio on the Brew here in beautiful downtown Okmulgee. We'd like to welcome to the studios Ms. Julie Wynn, who is the proprietor and main operator of Upscale Hairstyles, right? Is that correct?
Good morning. Yes.
All right. Now, you, of course, are a Creek citizen, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm 3/8 Creek.
Okay, well, works for me.
Yeah.
Well, now, we won't do all the hair jokes, hopefully. We won't get into scalping or any of that silliness. Yeah. But first of all, you've been a professional for what, an entire career, so to speak, is that right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For 38 years.
Okay, first of all, kind of give me a capsule of what Upscale here is all about.
Well, me and Wilma Tiger opened up in 2008 on 6th Street, and we called it Upscale Hair Salon, and we've been in business. She retired a few years, semi-retired, a few years ago, and anyway, we just enjoy our work. We really do.
Now, when you think of hair salons, is it salon now or
Yeah, it's hair salon.
Okay, good, because I wouldn't want to step in the wrong direction.
No, it's a hair salon.
Yeah, my mom would be knocking me.
Yeah, she would.
Bless her, dear soul. She was a cosmetologist.
Yes.
Now, that is the more accurate term for what you do, cosmetologist, rather than...
Yeah, we're cosmetologists, hairstylists. I'll do all kinds of things, waxing, hair cutting, coloring. Nails and pedicures, manicures, yes.
That's such a big thing these days.
Yeah, that really is, yeah.
Okay. Now, as the proprietor of this business, was it easy getting started, getting up and running, and finding the kind of financial support that you need to do?
Well, when I first started out, I just rented, actually my first job, I worked for JJ's Hair Salon back in the 1980s, and he had this certain way of cutting. It was called Sebring style, and I learned to cut in a different way under him. So I was like an apprentice under him, even though I was licensed. And so after that, I went to work at this other salon on Mission, and ended up opening that up myself back in 1985.
So you've been at it for
a long time, yeah.
Okay, now, I know that getting a business up and running is extremely tough, finding startup cash.
It is.
Now, did a tribe or some sort of a native entity assist you in that financial
Yes,
struggle?
they did. Creek Nation had it was called the Manpower Program, and they actually paid for my cosmetology, my schooling. And I worked for a few years, and then when I went to work for JJ, I was an assistant, and I ended up going back and getting another 500-hour schooling. Went back, and Creek Nation also paid for that. Yes, they did.
In school for your profession, what kinds of things are taught? What do you learn?
Well, you start out in theory where you have a state board book, it's called, and you do your classroom, and then you, after so many hours, I think it's 6 weeks, you go on the floor, and start cutting hair on. Start out on a mannequin when you're learning, and then you go to the floor.
Okay.
And it's about a 9-month course. If you go 40 hours a week, it's a 1,500-hour course.
Oh, my. So
Yeah.
you begin with a mannequin, and that way
Yeah.
you avoid any outraged
Exactly.
customers. What did you do to my
Poor
hair?
mannequin.
There is a real art to it. I mean,
There is.
There
really is.
People in the hot spots like L.A. and New York are
Oh,
making
yeah. I'd
thousands.
love to go to work there.
Yeah.
Work for the stars.
Yeah.
But, it's been good. I love doing what I do, and, you meet new people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up, forming a relationship with a lot of these clients. You really do.
By supplying what they want and what
You're
makes
just
them
being a
look
good listener, and supplying what they want. Make sure you're up on everything, on the new hair cutting styles, the colors. You have to stay up on all that.
When you begin
really
to cut someone's hair, what kind of things do you have to know ahead of time? Obviously, what they want, the style.
Yeah, you ask what they want, and sometimes if they want a certain style and you think it won't look good on them, you just you have to tell them and show them what will look good on them.
Mm-hmm.
And main thing is listen to them, because there's so many hairstylists that don't listen. They want to cut it the way they want to cut it, but you have to be in tune with your client here.
Well, you raised a point there that I was curious about. I had let's say a female relationship or two in the long past, long ago. Are you listening, Ramona? A long time ago.
Ramona?
That's my wife. That they would go, well, I'm going to get a haircut or a trim or something like that, and they might have what I consider, beautiful long hair or curly hair.
Right.
And they come back and it's all chopped off.
Yeah, you don't do that.
And I said, well, what happened there? Did you get caught in a windmill or something?
Yeah.
And I said, no, the hairstylist said, this is trendy, da-da-da. And I said, but you just cut off all that gorgeous hair.
Right. It might be trendy, but is it what they want? You have to, they ask you, what do you think would look good on me? And then you discuss it, and if that's what they want, you do it. But usually, as long as you have open communication with the client about what do they want, and you show them, visual picture is the best. Show them a picture. This is how it's going to look. Mm-hmm. And then you go from there.
Now, the shape of their face.
You have to take in consideration the profile, too. The back, the side. Do you want bangs or do you not? Do you need height in your crown? Mm-hmm. Kind of like sculpting.
Yeah. That's
like a sculptor.
Wonderful term there.
Mm-hmm.
The things I've seen, the significant hairstyles, and I've noticed in my lifetime, of course. When I was a young person, all the ladies wanted long, straight hair, which is beautiful. It worked for the most part. And then later on, there was the Farrah cut.
Oh, yeah, the famous Farrah cut. Yeah. That will always be famous. Farrah Fawcett cut. And now, even nowadays, it's changed a little bit, but it's in. Yeah.
It's still around. Well, it actually
Farrah was Farrah.
It was very becoming.
It is, and making a few changes, but yeah. It's a beautiful haircut.
Then I think the next one that I noticed was about the time the movie Rosemary's Baby came out.
Yeah.
Where she had long hair to begin with and then cut it all off in a short, what did you call that, a bob?
Yeah. Yeah.
And said, what did you do? And of course her husband said the same thing.
The Rachel cut was a big one back in 1997 on Friends. Everyone wanted their haircut like Rachel.
That's where I was going
next.
Yes.
Yes.
and wonderful style.
Jennifer Aniston. Yeah, it is.
It worked well for her and for most women who have used it. But in following those trends, do you see? I don't know. The term copycat comes to mind. Everybody's wearing the hair like that.
Yeah, you want to try to individualize if you can. You don't want everyone having the same haircut.
Right.
What I was going to say also with Indian hair, with native hair, you have usually their hair's more coarse and thick, and you need to get in there and texture those ends out so it doesn't just look like it's just blunt and chopped off, unless that's the look you're going for. But it's good to get in there and intercut and texture that hair out when you're cutting it.
All right. Yeah, I want to come back to native hair in just a second here, but I think the thing that got hot there in more recent years was Zooey Deschanel's hair. The bangs.
Yes.
Gorgeous.
Yes.
I loved it. Perfect for her face. And,
exactly.
her color.
But not everybody can wear it.
Right.
But it looks good on her.
Then some people are saying, well, that's Mamie Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Well, not exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
But is there a hairstyle now that is most current? I know for a little while there, a lot of women wore it piled up in a little bun on top of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I was kind of hot and cold about that.
Yes, yeah. The bobs are a classic cut that will never go out. There's just different variations of the bob. Like they have the lob, which is a shoulder-length long bob. You have your classic cuts will never go out, but they just change as, as the styles change. Just change that bob a little bit. And
where does that come from?
bob?
Well, not necessarily that one, but is it someone trying to really change styles or just make money off of a new style?
Probably, yeah. Well, because there's only so many ways you can cut hair, and so they'll just change the name of it. It's usually you have to repeat somewhere down the line,
Right, yeah.
But you just add this to it, then you have this new cut,
And you mentioned Native American hair.
Yes.
I've always seen that Indian women have the most beautiful
They
hair.
do have beautiful hair.
Gorgeous.
It's usually really thick.
And when they wear it long, it just...
Oh, it's beautiful.
just-
When it's healthy and in good shape, yes, I like it too.
And to care for that, trim the ends from time to time.
Trim the ends, get keratin treatments, moisture treatments. That's another thing, hair care. Now, you can come in, a lot of them will say, well, how come my hair doesn't look like it does when I leave the salon? Well, a lot of that's the hair care. They're not using the proper shampoos and styling products that we do. And of course, it's not going to look the same or feel the same.
Well, let me ask you a question in that direction. Are there things that people do to, abuse their hair?
Oh, yes. They can stylists even do it. Over-color them, over-process them. They come in too often for these chemical treatments and it just dries their hair out. So, yeah, they can.
With a lot of Native women, let's go back to that, you see them wearing variations of straight hair at different lengths. Some keep the long hair and then wear it in braids for perhaps ceremonial reasons. Or
right, I'm sure.
Because their husbands love it.
Yeah.
Things like
a lot
that.
of them aren't wearing their... there are some, and it looks beautiful, but there's a lot of them that come in, the Native women, they want the updated styles, the trendy cuts, choppy cuts, and, the color, a lot of color.
We've...
a lot of foiling.
Yeah, I mentioned my wife earlier, and we used to have this kind of joke in between us that... when we go to an office like the Bureau of Indian Affairs, all the women have the same hairstyle.
Yeah.
That, kind of a short, rounded kind of thing.
Yes.
We used to call that round hair.
Round hair.
Now,
helmet hair.
Things like that. Is that still prevalent, do you think?
Not as much, I don't think. I think women are taking more interest in their whole style, not just the hair, but I noticed in the last, say, 10 years, doing a lot more color on Native people, like the color, dimensional colors, all of it. not just the cutting. Now they're getting into the coloring. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
we have a couple
Looks
of
beautiful.
Young women on our reporting staff who've gone really into colors from time to time.
I mean, it can just change your whole look
Yeah, we've had
and the texture of your hair.
we've had a girl come in with purple one day,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
green the next.
Yeah, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, well, you look at it and go, well.
We have a girl that at our shop. I don't do them so much, but she does. She likes to do the exotic colors like the greens and the purples and pinks.
What's behind that, do you think? What's the thinking behind
I don't know. They just want to be different. They
Different.
want to have their own look.
Well,
You know.
certainly individual.
Yeah, it's a lot of maintenance though. High maintenance. But-
Here in Old Mulgee, which is a smaller town, are there styles that are prevalent? Do you get a lot of customers coming in for a particular style or color or anything here?
Yeah, that like in a smaller town, they'll see somebody that, like say at Walmart, and they'll say, "Who did your hair? I like that color. I want that." And yeah,
Yeah, you think about that happening, but
we are more conservative though. Mulgee is.
Yeah.
In Tulsa, we do a lot more of the wild colors and styles.
a more diversified age
Yes,
group.
yeah.
The business of cosmetology can be kind of a tough one at the beginning.
It is. You have to build a clientele, and that's where most people, you're going to make it or break it. Are you going to hang in there? It might take, in a small town like Okmulgee, 2 or 3 years to build a clientele, whereas in Tulsa, 6 months. But if you could just hang in there, you know, if you're a good hairstylist and you have a good rapport with people, you can do it. You just have to be patient. Maybe a lot of those people that first get out of cosmetology school, if they would get maybe a part-time job while they're building, or if they have a spouse that has an income to back them, that's where they like make it or break it area, because you have to be able to support yourself when you first get out of cosmetology school.
The profession can also be challenging in physical sense.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, you have to be on your feet all day.
Oh, yes. We have mats that we stand on, yes.
Kind of like bartenders.
Cushion mats, exactly. And we're kind of like a bartender as far as the listening to our clients.
Well, I was
And
going to get around
we have,
that, yeah.
you know, we develop relationships with them.
Sort of,
And,
yeah.
I mean, they come in not just to get their hair cut, but sometimes they just need someone to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody they can trust, not just anybody, you know.
You know, I did a TV story once on a barber in Anchorage, Alaska,
Yeah.
who said, "Yeah, you're a doctor, psychologist,
Exactly, all of it.
minister. You know,
Yes.
people coming in have a miserable day, and then you try and give them a good haircut, and they feel better." You know?
I used to do a man, he's not with us anymore, he died a few years ago, but he used to be right under the superintendent, and he used to come in and he'd say, "I'm having such a stressful day, Julie. Preach me happy." So he'd come in for 30 minutes on his lunch hour, and I'd just talk him up, try to encourage him, and he was really fun. I liked him.
Well, tell me about those male customers. What are they looking for when they come in for services?
They're wanting, of course, they're wanting a certain haircut, and they're different from women. They will talk to you and open up, but not like a woman does, you know. They're usually like, they just want to come in and get their hair cut and leave. But you develop relationships with them too also, but it's just different. But a man usually knows exactly what he wants, where a woman will want to look in books and have you help her out with the haircut or whatever.
Yeah, are there certain things that Native men are asking for?
Mainly the younger ones, it's long on the top and clippered real short underneath. The older Native men, just conservative cut, you know.
Right. Do you deal with a lot of guys wearing braids?
Some. Mm-hmm.
And what kind of things do you do for them?
Usually they just come in, they may want their hair shampooed, just trim their ends.
Mm-hmm.
And we won't cut it off either.
Oh, no, don't do that.
No.
I understand.
I don't want to be known as scissor happy.
No, and I understand some tribes is, the guys don't cut their hair until there's a loss in the family.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yeah, and I've had some friends that do that.
I did a girl's hair like that once, a little girl. Yeah.
It's kind of a shame to see that happen, but I understand, things
and then cutting it on a new moon or whatever.
Yeah, that's, yeah. Do you get a lot of cultural kind of things?
Some. It's been a while, but we used to.
People, as you say, new moon or
yes. I don't know all about it, but yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we're out of time pretty much, but
I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you very much. It's been fun and a real change of pace for me. Now, if someone were interested in coming in and having you do their hair or some other services, how do they get in touch with you?
They can call us at 918-758-4399.
And you're here in downtown Okmulgee.
Downtown Okmulgee. We just moved on 5th Street. We're in the McCullough building. And also, Rosalind Franklin is a co-owner also of Upscale Hair Salon.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much, Julia Wynn. We appreciate you taking time with us.
Thank you.
It was fun.
I enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, you have a good one. We're going to get on with what we've got to do. We'll be sharing some community announcements here. If you'll just hang on while I grab my folder here. First of all, we want to remind listeners with students who will be graduating from any sort of high school or military or technical school or, of course, college. That's happening for our June 1st edition of the Mvskoke News. You want to get your graduate profile, photo, and bio to Jessica McBride no later than Friday, May 11th by 5 p.m. Now, I understand, we've seen folks who are, come in at the last second or two over time and say, well, you got to take this, and we have to cut it off at some point. So please understand it does take some time to lay those pages out and put it all together. So last-minute changes are really frowned on. Okay, bingo at the Hannah Indian Community Center. That's 3 miles east of the Hannah Post Office. Saturday, April the 14th. Where are we here? Doors open at 11. Food sale at 12 p.m. until whenever, and bingo at 1:15 p.m. until whatever. Door prizes, cakewalks, special games, grocery baskets, you pick them. And don't forget your dauber. You don't want to go in there without any weaponry. So if you're interested, it's in east of the Hannah Post Office there, 918-777-6393. Okay, business boot camps for Indianpreneurship, a business curriculum. That seminar is sponsored by the Mvskoke Loan Fund, and it's a free business training event for people who are interested in expanding your business school, so you should attend. So it'll be happening several dates here around our area on April 18th, May 16th, June 19th, and July 18th at various places. So if you want to attend one of those boot camps, Indianpreneurship, call 918-549-2603. Okay. Where are we here? Career Fair, Okmulgee County Career Fair 2018. What do you want to be? What's your next career move, etc., etc. So if you're interested in connecting with over 30 employers, job seekers and students should bring a resume, dress for success, walk in and talk with them, and you can register and give them a call. Let's see, 918-732-7773. That's the Okmulgee County Career Fair, sponsored by, our, just missed it here. Oh, well. Anyway, you know where it is and who's got it. All right. That's on the 24th, yeah. Okay, that's the Green Country Technology Center. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Appreciate it. Mvskoke Loan Fund, it's darn near almost too late, but if you need help with free tax preparation, you better give them a call. It's winding up this week, so you might want to give them a call for the assistance and make an appointment. Now, walk-ins aren't being accepted. You got to make an appointment. So give them a call there at the Mvskoke Loan Fund. Let's see, we got a number. No, they don't have a number there. My My God, it's staring me right in the face here. Mvskoke Loan Fund at 918-549-2606. And that's a dead end tomorrow, so if you don't got it by then, that's too bad. All right, well, that's all I can do with it here today. Thank you for listening to Mvskoke Radio. We appreciate you being with us, and check with us next week. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. But